Hi guys, welcome to this week's installment of Tuesdays with Lauri. Yesterday I published a new photograph called Wired, and you see it here now. And straight after I published it, I received several messages asking me how did I post-process it? What were the techniques and tricks that I used to create the tones and effects that I have in the photograph? And I decided that instead of answering each of these questions separately, I would commit this Tuesday for teaching you guys these tricks and things that I do in Photoshop. We'll go through the Photoshop file of this photograph. I'll go through it layer by layer. We'll go and look at what did I do, why did I do what I did, and try to teach you a few techniques along the way. I hope you guys will like it, and with that said, let's turn to the laptop. This is the working station that I use. I have an iMac here and a MacBook Pro. I do most of my editing on the laptop. It has slightly more memory and power, so I usually use that one. And today we'll be looking at the photograph on my MacBook Pro. When I edit, I always use my Wacom tablet. I find it much easier to edit my photographs with a pen instead of a mouse, and I highly recommend getting one of these if you do a lot of work in Photoshop. But yeah, so here we have the final image open now, and yeah, this is the image called Wired. And here, when we open up this folder, you'll see all the layers that I used in order to achieve this look. The original image looked like this, and this was the original concept that I had in mind when shooting this photograph. I wanted to achieve this sort of a composition. But then when I saw this photo again a few days later, I kind of felt that it had too much negative space around here, and the composition in my eyes didn't really work that well. And that's when I decided that I'll try and experiment slightly with this photograph. And what I decided to do was I mirrored his face like this. So I used the same half, just mirrored on both sides. But as you can see from this photo here, he still kind of looks like an alien and not really like a human being. And there's still some work that I'd like to do with the colors as well. And so what I decided to do is I decided to use this as the base image and use some tools and tricks to create him, to make him look more like a human being and really not like an alien. But before I started working on his face, I added these lights to the sides. This is an effect that I like to use in my sports photography, and you'll see, if you take a look at my portfolio, you can see a few photos where I use the same technique. And in case you guys don't know how to add these lights, we could take a quick look on how to add a light like this. So let's turn these lights off and create a new layer here. And we fill it with black. We filled up the layer with black, and then we go down to Filter, Render, Lens Flare. I normally use this 50 to 300mm zoom lens flare, but for this photo I used this one, 105mm prime lens, and I put the brightness up slightly, about 110%, and then put it off to the side like this. Click OK, and as you can see we have a nice lens flare here. But in order to overlay this lens flare on top of the image, you have to change the blending mode from normal to screen. That way all the black areas of this layer, let's go back, all these black areas disappear and only these light flare areas stay visible. So as you can see here, now we have a light. But this light or this flare looks slightly photoshoppy. So what I normally do is I apply a blur, a Gaussian blur on the flare. Depending on the size of the flare, you'll have to test it out slightly, but this seems to be working quite well. 44 pixels radius, and yeah, now it looks slightly more natural. And when I had it on one side, I just duplicated the layer and transformed it, flipped it horizontally. That way we get the lens flares on both sides. Yeah. Let's take them away and put these back on. You can change the hue of the lens flare by clicking or pushing Command and U. This brings up a hue and saturation panel for that layer. And here, by dragging this, you can change the hue, as you can see here. Let's pull up the saturation. You can change the hue of the flare. And I decided to go with a slightly more greenish hue for my lights, or for my flare. But let's cancel this now. Yeah, so these were the lens flares. And then after that, I have a curves layer here, curves adjustment layer, where I slightly tweaked the blue, or added some blue to the shadows, and slightly added some red to the mid-tones, just to get a nice tone to the image like this. It's a really subtle effect, but I like it. And I usually tend to use blue in my shadows, but it's easy to get carried away when playing with the colors, and it's better to do just some small minor changes instead of really going crazy, or that's at least my opinion. And then I kind of wanted the viewer to focus on the person's eyes, and in order to pop those eyes and make them stand out, I added a high pass layer and sharpened them up. See, can you see here? Yeah, and let's go through this sharpening also quickly. So when you want to sharpen up an image or an area of an image, what you do is you merge all the layers below and create a new layer like this. That you can do by pushing down Shift, Alt, Command and the letter E, and that creates a new layer which merges down all the layers that are below it. And when you have this, you go down to Filter, Other and High Pass, and this is, try to go subtle here as well, so something like this, maybe 7.4 pixels. And when you have this high pass layer, you go to this blending mode and change it to soft light. So now when I turn it on and off, you should see it sharpen up quite a bit. But I didn't want to sharpen up the whole image, I just wanted the eyes to be sharp. And to achieve that, I created the layer mask, filled it with black, and then painted with white over the eyes. As you can see here on the layer mask, those two white spots, let's see here, these two white spots are the areas where the eyes are, and that's where the layer is now visible, so that's where the sharpening really happens, and all the rest of the image stays the same. Okay, so I sharpen up the image. Then, as you can see, I have some areas here which I don't really like, but I wanted to have a frame in this image, a black frame. So what I did, I created a new layer, filled it with black, and then added this image on top of it. And as you can see here, let's turn this off once more. I used Liquify in order to change up his face slightly, because in this image I didn't want the model to look like himself. I wanted to make a image of a person who looks slightly mysterious, and as you can see, when we mirror a face, it really doesn't look like a human anymore, at least as you could see here. It's more like an alien. So what I tried to do is leave the mirroring effect on, but still create a human being that looked almost like a normal person. And that's what I did with the liquify tool. And if in case you're wondering where can you find the liquify tool, it's down here, filter, liquify, and let's just take a quick look here. And here you can really do whatever you want with the face. I wouldn't do that, but maybe subtle changes like this. You can move the cheek line if you need to make him look slightly more sad. Move that one. You know, that's what you can do here. And when I saw this, I felt that I was almost ready. The flares kind of looked artificial to me, not really that real and authentic, so I decided to work on them slightly. I added this layer of smoke, which you can do by creating a new layer, filling it with black, going down to filter, render, and clouds. And this is what you get. And I turned this cloud layer to overlay, and then turned down the opacity quite a bit, down to 16%, like this, and then double clicked on it and gave an order that where the underlying layer is dark, this smoke layer should blend that, and by blending we mean it makes itself invisible in the areas where the underlying layer is dark. So that's what we did here. And now, as you can see, the fog smoke layer only shows up in the areas where the underlying layer is bright, which is in this case the flares. And that just makes those flares slightly more authentic, look more real. And to finish off, I sharpened up the face. If you look at the layer mask here, only on the face, I sharpened up the face, and then also sharpened up the lips once more. This way the eyes and the mouth are sharp and pop out from this image, but also the whole face stays sharp, which was very important for me in this image. And then, as the last finishing touch, I added a white frame on the sides of the image. And this is how I like to look at my image, and this is the final product that I published. Yeah, so that was the Photoshop file. Pretty easy edit. I've done a lot of photos which have required a lot of work and a lot of hours in Photoshop. This was a pretty quick edit. The original concept didn't work out. And when that happens, I usually try to experiment with the photo and try to save it. And maybe see if I can develop it into a totally different direction. And that way create something new, something exciting that I like. And in this case it worked out very well. I'm really happy with the final image. And if you guys have any questions concerning the edit or the techniques that I went through pretty quickly, just shoot me an email or leave a comment below, and I'll try to answer all your questions. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something new, and we'll see you next Tuesday again. Bye.